Stakeholder communication, stakeholder mapping, and the Stakeholder Salience model. In this video, we talk and analyze each of these concepts. The Stakeholder Salience model is a model and a tool used by communication practitioners to identify and to categorize the stakeholders groups of a company. The way this model works is by looking at the salience of the stakeholder groups. In this video, we will discover that the salience is similar to the importance or the influence the stakeholder groups have over your company, and the reason why you would like to understand why this model is important for a company and why you should understand it is because every organization has different groups of stakeholders, and as a communication practitioner you need to understand and to know them, to communicate with them accordingly, to provide them the relevant information that is relevant for your company but relevant to their interest as well. Before going on with this video, you should know the difference between the shareholders and the stakeholders. I've created a separate and different video for this. You can watch it right here or in the links down in the description to understand this difference. After ordering and categorizing the different stakeholder groups, a company can actually know how intensely and how many resources it needs to invest in keeping the communication with each group particularly. And you want to know this because you want to have different kind of messages. So for example, think about the shareholders or the financial investors. They are one group of stakeholders and you would need to know to their interest to be able to communicate the relevant information. So for example, to this group you will only provide like the annual reports, the financial statements, the shareholder minutes, and this is important for them. In the other case, for, I don't know, the customers of a company, which are another group of stakeholders, you would only provide information about the products, the services your company offers, the promotions, the sales, stuff that is interesting for their level of interest in your company. So this is why you should understand this model, because they will provide you with the information about the stakeholder groups of your company, so you need to know what kind of information to give them. So by using such a model and by using such a strategy to provide to the relevant stakeholders the relevant information they need to know, what your company will actually win is the fact that you will keep building a strong brand reputation in their minds. So this kind of a tool, the Salience model, is a tool for categorizing, identifying and analyzing the stakeholder groups. Let's have a look at it and let's see how it works. The salience is defined as how visible or proeminent a stakeholder is to an organization based upon three main attributes: the power, the legitimacy and the urgency. In the Stakeholder Salience model, stakeholders are identified and classified based upon their salience to the organization. So in simple words, the salience of a stakeholder group is how important that group is to the company according to three main attributes: the power, the legitimacy and the urgency. Basically, the companies analyze these three characteristics to determine the influence of a group of people or entities to their company. How much or how big can their influence be over the company, so we know how to communicate with these groups and address them accordingly. We already discussed that there are three main attributes that a company looks at to determine the importance of the stakeholder groups. They are the power, the urgency and the legitimacy. Let's now see and analyze each one of them in detail to understand what they mean. The power means the power of the stakeholder groups upon an organization. The legitimacy means the legitimacy of the claim laid upon the organization by the stakeholder, and the urgency means the degree to which the stakeholder claims call for immediate action. The way this model works is by identifying the attributes that each stakeholder groups possess, and there are some groups, for example A, B and C in this model, that only possess one attribute, and we will discuss them right now. In this model we can see that there are three stakeholder groups on the edges: the dormant, the discretionary and the demanding stakeholders. We call these three groups the latent stakeholders, which are groups possessing only one attribute. The dormant stakeholders have the power to impose their will on others, but because they don't have legitimacy or urgency, their power remains dormant. For example, those who are able to spend a lot of money or who can command the attention of the news media. The second category, the discretionary stakeholders, possess legitimate claims based upon interactions with organization, but don't have the power to influence the organization, therefore their claims have no urgency. For example, these are the recipients of corporate charity. And the third category, the demanding stakeholders, they have very urgent claims but do not have the power or the legitimacy to enforce them. These groups can be bothersome but do not require serious attention. For example, a lone demonstrator who camps in front of a company. It might be embarrassing for the company, but typically his claims will remain unconsidered. We discussed the three groups on the edges, and we know they are called latent stakeholders. The further groups are classified as expectant stakeholders and are groups who have two attributes. The dominant stakeholders have both powerful and legitimate claims, giving them a strong influence on the organization. For example, the employees, the customers, the owners, and significant investors. The dangerous stakeholders have power and urgent claims but do not have legitimacy. So they are seen as dangerous because they may resort to violence, including wildcat strikes, sabotage, and terrorism. For example, in 2002, Philips introduced a flat-screen TV. An armed individual held several people hostage in an office building in Amsterdam because he thought the TVs communicated hidden codes. The dependent stakeholders lack power but have urgent and legitimate claims. They often rely on others for the power to carry out their will. For example, local residents of a community in which a plant of a large corporation is based rely on lobby groups, media, and political representation to have their concerns voiced and considered by a company. And finally, the definitive stakeholders, they have legitimacy, power, and urgency. Communication practitioners need to communicate with them always. For example, the shareholders. Although usually they are dominant, they can become active when they feel that their interests are not served by managers. Once the stakeholder groups have been classified considering their salience, the communication practitioners will start creating plans, and they already have a sense of the message that they will transmit and how to communicate with these groups. For example, dominant and definitive stakeholders such as employees, customers, and shareholders need to be communicated with on an ongoing basis. Companies usually do this through newsletters, events, intranet advertising, promotional campaigns, financial reports, investor briefings, the annual general meeting for shareholders, and so. When we think about the latent stakeholders, so the dormant stakeholders, the demanding and the discretionary stakeholders, the companies don't usually invest a lot of resources in communicating with them. Stakeholder Salience Model is one of the most used tools by the communication practitioners of every company that considers corporate communication. However, there is one aspect that they need to take into account, namely the fact that the position of the groups and the stakeholders groups can change across the matrix in time, because there are changes in public opinion, there are changes in market environments, or because of a particular crisis in the organization. So stakeholders groups must be classified on an often basis. They should run this model every now and then. This was everything for this video. I hope you understand now the differences between each model. There are three models: the specific questions, the salience model, and the power interest matrix, and all of them are tools and mapping tools for discovering and identifying the shareholders groups. If you would like to see the other models, find the links down in the description. I will also have a recommendation right here, and keep watching these videos to understand how you communicate with your stakeholders accordingly. If you're an entrepreneur and just created your very first company, maybe you're looking at these videos in order to learn about marketing and corporate communication, to create, well, your very first communication campaign and marketing strategy. Maybe you want to create your entire business plan. Well, in this case, I've already helped you. In the links down in the description, you will find a link where you can get a very first business plan and the very first marketing and communication strategy for your company. You will have a manual with all the information that you need to know, and you will have a notebook that, when completed, it will turn into your original business plan for your company. So check that out. Make sure that you check that out. It's very useful. Thank you for watching the video. Check out the other videos on my channel. Leave a comment in the comment section for the algorithm. You know how YouTube is nowadays. And also, if you want to support my work, you can buy me a coffee. I run on a lot of coffee to do research for these videos, to do editing and filming for these videos. And you can support me by doing that, or you can keep watching the other videos. I'll see you at the next one. Bye.